What's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys my best tips and tricks to win your fantasy basketball leagues at the simplest form. I'm not going to be focusing on strategy, more of just a generic point of view of if you want to win, you must do these simple steps. What's going on, guys? Welcome to ezbucketzleague Fantasy Basketball. If you love fantasy basketball, this is the channel for you. My name is Soom and I'm a fantasy basketball expert. I am a professional and a diamond rank on my Yahoo Fantasy app. So if you want support and you want advice, I am your guy. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications to not miss any of my upcoming videos about fantasy. The first tip is simple, and it's lazy never wins. I say for fantasy basketball, if you want to win your league, whether there's a prize at the end, whether it's for bragging rights, you have to not be lazy. And what that means is you have to set your lineups. 2, be active with the NBA. 3, watch NBA games, and of course, be active within your fantasy basketball community, whether it's talking to your community chat, talking to your friends, your family. You have to be active, and you can't just sit back and relax. This is my biggest tip. If you want to play basketball and you're serious about it, you have to take it seriously. But of course, I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you are taking it seriously. So this is an encouragement. Never be lazy, and even though it takes 5 minutes out of your day max, and let's be honest, for fantasy basketball, you don't have to be super active and spend an hour a day, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. But honestly, that 10 to 15 minutes can win you your trophy. My next tip is simple, and that's preparing for the playoff schedules. In other words, preparing ahead. And when I say prepare, I mean prepare ever since draft day. The best way to do this is making sure you know the NBA schedule and checking out when NBA teams play during your playoff weeks. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if your team is good or not in fantasy basketball. Numbers matter, and having players being active matters. So that's why when drafting, trading, and building your roster, look at the playoff schedule, know which teams play the most games, and then of course, make the playoffs, and in the playoffs, you'll have a better advantage because you prepared ahead. Tip number 3 is an obvious, and that's being active within the waiver wire. Utilize the waiver wire pickups, adjust your roster on a daily to weekly basis when it comes to the open free agency market. Fantasy basketball is just like the NBA. There are players that are not picked up on the team. And sometimes those players that are not picked up have value and can help your team a lot. So when I say utilize, that goes back to me saying research. Do not be lazy, be active. Understand that when a waiver wire target gets minutes, gets playing time, that's when they become a fantasy target. Some of your leagues might have a maximum cap on waiver wire pickups, so of course be aware of that. Don't waste your pickups too often, and of course be smart with your pickups. But I do believe adjusting your rosters by adding players from the waiver wires will, for 1, give you more numbers, and 2, increase your team's overall access when it comes to categories and the things you are trying to win. Tip number 4 is understanding your risk. And what I mean by this is knowing the players on your team and understanding the risk that each player gives. For example, if you draft LeBron James, you know when he's active, he's gonna put up monster stat lines of 25 points, plus 8 assists, and plus 6 rebounds. But understand that on back-to-back sets, LeBron might rest because he is getting older and preparing for the NBA playoffs. And remember, fantasy playoffs is not in the NBA playoffs. Fantasy playoffs is at the end of the regular season, which means you have to know the risk and be aware that LeBron might be sitting during your fantasy basketball playoff time. This goes as well with drafting rookies. Understand that rookies have a rookie wall, which usually means to start off the season, they're not that good. They're really rusty and just trying to get comfortable. So understand that with all these risks, there's going to be time to wait. There's going to be patience needed, and of course, expectations won't be met to your liking. Of course, I will always encourage you guys to draft your teams where risks are minimalized and risks are decreased, but knowing your risk is very important when it comes to roster adjusting. The next tip is pretty obvious, and that's make a lot of trades. That goes back to being active and talking to your friends, the other managers in your league. Trying to change your roster as the season goes on is very important. After each week, understand which categories, which areas you need to improve on, and then of course during the ending of the week, talk to the managers, try to propose a trade to improve your roster where for 1, you gain something, and of course he gains something as well. I'm a believer that yes, there are trades where it is one-sided. At the end of the day, when you do trade a player, you're always losing something. There's no fantasy player that does everything. So that's why maybe targeting a GM where you know they need some of your players and you need some of theirs, a trade could be possible. My last tip goes with trading, and that's buying low and selling high, which basically means you should try to buy low players when their value got decreased, and when you're trading away players, sell them when they're at an all-time high value. For example, as I'm making this video, Damian Lillard is not shooting well and is only averaging about 18 points per game. He's known to be averaging 30 points per game, so maybe the general manager is fed up with Damian Lillard. Contact the manager and see if he would sell Damian Lillard at a lower price. Of course, don't rip him off, but maybe you'll be able to get Dame when his value is lower than usual, because if Dame's value was higher, maybe he wouldn't even trade Dame at all. Understand situations, buy low and sell high. This is a very good strategy in fantasy basketball, and honestly, I've perfected it and I want you guys to perfect it as well. Overall, I believe all of these tips are great for you to win your fantasy basketball leagues, and I do believe you guys must master all of these to give you a great chance of actually winning. Last thing that I do want to mention is me personally, I do give fantasy basketball advice on a one-on-one level on my Patreon platform. So if you guys want roster advice, trade advice, draft day advice, anything related to fantasy basketball where you guys can message me about fantasy, I will answer you guys and give you my honest opinion to help you win your fantasy basketball league. So guys, if you want that kind of support, I am here for you guys. Check out my Patreon page, link is down below, where I offer special fantasy basketball perks. I love fantasy basketball and I would love to help you love it and help you win it. So yes guys, this wraps up my video today talking about fantasy basketball and how to win. I really hope you guys learned something today, and I'll see you all next time on Easy Buckets. Whoa!